Um, Time to get started now. The time is actually 12:01 p.m. and I will call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. This is our July 2022 meeting. I'm Norma Hutcheson, Bega Chairperson, and due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx. Joining me today for this meeting are board members Darrin Sobin, Felice Smith, and Melissa Tucker. Together, we constitute a quorum for this meeting. Since it was first posted, the meeting agenda has not changed anyone. So I ask board members to please take a minute to review the agenda, and then I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda for today's meeting. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And no opposition, that sounds like everybody. So before us today also are the June 2nd, 2022 draft minutes. And will a member please make a motion that we consider approving those minutes from last month's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board consider the approval of the June 2nd, 2022 meeting minutes. Are there any comments or suggestions or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And it sounds like everyone. So we'll move to the next item on our agenda, which is the Office of Open Government report. Attorney Advisor Cherie DeBerry will provide the report on behalf of the office and is appearing virtually via WebEx. Ms. DeBerry, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Cherie DeBerry, Attorney Advisor with the Office of Open Government. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government, or OOG, on behalf of Director Niquelle Allen. Since the last board meeting, OOG has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the district government and the actions of those who represent them. The first item, Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice. Advisory opinions. On June 29, 2022, Director Allen issued an advisory opinion about the backlog of administrative FOIA appeals in the Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel to serve both as a reference source about the administrative appeals process and a response to a specific complaint about the volume of outstanding cases. First, Director Allen set out a full description of the MOLC appellate process, including the tolling during the COVID-19 pandemic. Next, she discussed and quantified the MOLC's current backlog. At the end of fiscal year 2021, over 200 appeals were overdue for disposition, and none have been posted publicly since the November 1st, 2019 issue of the Register. Director Allen concluded that multiple causes contribute to the delay, and no one institution is entirely to blame. For one thing, the current statute is too rigid. Appeals vary in terms of the questions they raise and the nature of the records they seek, but for all the appeals, regardless of complexity, the MOLC only has a firm statutory 10 business day period of review. Also, for many appeals, the MOLC does not receive the custodial agency's response until most or all of the 10 business days have run. Given the administrative review body only 10 business days is unique to the district. Our neighbor states and the federal government all give their reviewing bodies longer time periods and the flexibility to extend those where necessary. As a remedy, the advisory opinion strongly recommends amending DC FOIA to enlarge the currently inadequate processing time. Director Allen also suggests correcting a few obsolete provisions, such as the MOLC's address and the methods of submission in the mayor's Freedom of Information regulations. The next item is informal OMA and FOIA advice. Since the last board meeting, OOG responded informally via email or telephone to requests for assistance as follows. We responded to 11 requests for OMA advice and 7 requests for FOIA advice. And OOG also responded to 27 requests for technical assistance with open-dc.gov. The next item is remote meeting monitoring. The OOG legal staff monitors public body meetings to ensure compliance with the OMA. Each OOG attorney attends remote public meetings held during work hours. We offer legal advice regarding OMA compliance and take corrective action if necessary. During the month of June, OOG attended 11 public body meetings. OOG rendered corrective OMA advice to 3 public bodies as a result of monitoring, including written notice that a public body's meeting notices and meeting minutes were not being posted in accordance with the OMA, written notice that a public body's meeting notice did not include the WebEx link for the upcoming meeting, and oral and written advice to a public body to deliver their meeting minutes in time to meet the DC Register's early deadline for agency documents. Also, that notices on their website should include not just date and time, but also the location, agenda, and the OMA OOG statement from the OOG's regulations. The next items are training and outreach. The first matter is an OMA training. On June 9th, 2022, I presented an OMA training to the Emergency Medical Services Advisory Committee. The training was well received and the presentation was distributed to committee members. The next matter, meeting to discuss FOIA portal recommendations. On June 15th, 2022, Chief Counsel Barton convened a remote conference with the Office of Chief Technology Officer's Interim General Counsel Radcar to discuss the implementation of the OOG's recommendations to the FOIA portal. Recommendations were discussed in advisory opinion, Octo's FOIA portal's compliance with DC FOIA. Next, ASAP Task Force meeting. Director Allen is a member of the American Society of Access Professionals Task Force. The mission of the ASAP Task Force is to make the organization more relevant to federal and state government FOIA officers. On June 15th, which was their last meeting, the group created a survey regarding how to better serve its members. The next item, DC Bar Writing Course. On June 16, 2022, I attended the writing course, More Effective Writing Makes More Effective Lawyers. The course was presented by the DC Bar. The next matter, Privacy Training Course. I attended the U.S. Private Sector Privacy Live online training course presented by the International Association of Privacy Professionals. The training took place over 4 days, June 21st, June 23rd, June 28th, and June 30th. The training focused on data privacy laws, policies, and standards in major international jurisdictions and skills essential to privacy operations management. The next matter, FOIA 101 training. On June 22nd, 2022, trial attorney Orgy facilitated a FOIA training for members of the District of Columbia Department of General Services. I attended the training and the training was well received. Next item, LexisNexis Legal Research Webinar. On June 22nd, 2022, Chief Counsel Barton and I attended a LexisNexis webinar that focused on terms and connectors for legal research. The webinar presented helpful tips and tools for efficient legal research. The next item, FOIA training. On June 28, 2022, Chief Counsel Barton facilitated a FOIA training webinar for the Department of Housing and Community Development. The training was well received with approximately 100 participants in attendance. Director Allen attended the training. Open Government Advisory Group. On June 28, 2022, Director Allen and I attended the OGAG meeting. The meeting was to discuss FOIA recommendations to present to the Mayor's Office of Legal Counsel. The next matter, the Mayor's Cabinet meeting. On June 29, 2022, Mayor Bowser held the Bowser Administration Cabinet meeting, which Director Allen attended. The meeting consisted of updates from DC agencies on their activities and a public safety briefing. Mandatory online harassment prevention course for supervisors and employees. Harassment prevention for U.S. Employees Office is a required training that must be completed by Friday, September 30th, 2022, while and I have completed the training. The next items are litigation and legislative update. First is litigation. Campaign Legal Center versus the Department of Justice regarding records surrounding a citizenship question on the 2020 census. This case arose out of a 2017 correspondence between the U.S. Department of Justice and the Census Bureau, the Gary Letter, to enable Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross to add an item to the 2020 census questionnaire to ask respondents about their citizenship status. On February 1st, 2018, the Campaign Legal Center requested from the DOJ under federal FOIA documents related to the citizenship question decision. In its response, the DOJ withheld more than 100 pages of responsive documents under FOIA exemptions 5 and 6. And on May 21st, 2018, the CLC sued the DOJ in the U.S. District Court for production of the remainder of the responsive documents. The District Court held that withholding decisions by the DOJ based on the deliberative process privilege were improper and ordered the DOJ to produce responsive drafts of the Gary Letter and associated emails because they were completed after the Attorney General had already decided to request the citizenship question. The DOJ appealed. Reviewing de novo, the U.S. Court of Appeals analyzed whether the Gary Letter itself constituted a final adopted decision, in which case its drafts and associated emails would qualify as pre-decisional or simply embodied or explained an agency policy. According to the 2021 Supreme Court case, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service versus Sierra Club, what matters is not whether a document is last in line, but whether it communicates a policy on which the agency has settled. The Court of Appeals concluded that despite the Gary Letter being sent after the Attorney General's first mention of the citizenship question, the language of the Gary Letter itself was crafted to protect the DOJ's litigation and policy interests. So the Gary Letter was itself a final document representing a substantive policy judgment so that its drafts qualified for withholding under Federal Exemption 5. However, the court remanded for further consideration of the withholding of 5 emails that may have been sent after the Gary Letter was transmitted. The docket sheets, complaints, and answers in both courts' opinion are in the Dropbox. The next case, Hyatt versus United States Patent and Trademark Office regarding commercial use status and fee waiver. On November 30th, 2018, requester Gilbert Hyatt sued the United States Patent and Trademark Office in the United States District Court, challenging the PTO's denial of a fee waiver, or in the alternative, its categorization of Hyatt as a commercial requester. Similar to DC FOIA, the federal statute breaks down search, review, and duplication charges into 3 different tiers, and commercial use requests are subject to all 3 of those. Also, the federal statute mandates a waiver or reduction of fees where disclosure of the information is in the public interest because it is likely to contribute significantly to public understanding of the operations or activities of the government and is not primarily in the commercial interest of the requester. On May 27, 2022, the district court ruled against Hyatt with respect to outright waiver but remanded it to the PTO for further action on the commercial classification issue. The district court opined that Hyatt's pleadings rested on conclusory statements rather than true arguments, but that the administrative record is insufficiently developed for the court to properly review the PTO's fees classification decision. So the court remanded for the PTO to develop a further record in support of its finding that Hyatt's request was for commercial use. The docket sheet and material case documents are in the Dropbox. The next matter, Eddington versus Department of Defense regarding applicability of common law mailbox rule to email. On February 14, 2020, Patrick Eddington sued the U.S. Department of Defense in federal court under FOIA. He alleged that he had email requests for records from 14 military components, but had received no response. The DoD alleged that it had searched for, but not located, any requests from Eddington. The district court granted summary judgment to the DoD, concluding that while Eddington's emails and declarations support his genuinely held belief that he had properly sent the request, they did not create a genuine dispute of fact as to whether any DoD component received a request. Eddington appealed. The Court of Appeals affirmed. The DoD prevailed. The Court of Appeals noted that federal FOIA calculates agencies' deadlines for response based upon their receipt of a FOIA request and regarded the showing of receipt as an element of the claim. The federal courts presume an agency's good faith in searching and responding if they conclude that an agency's declaration is relatively detailed and non-conclusory and submitted in good faith. Here, the 14 military components had searched for the requests in the places that routinely contain received requests, email inboxes, FOIA logs, and spam folders. On the other hand, Eddington's emails include timestamps indicated when his laptop's airmail application processed the emails, but he had shown only that he sent the requests, not that any of the 14 components received them. The Court of Appeals also declined to apply the common law mailbox rule to email. That would have created the presumption that the military custodians had received Eddington's emails just based upon his showing that he had dispatched them. But the longstanding rationale for the presumption of receipt under the mailbox rule is the regularity of successful transmissions in the U.S. Postal Service. Emails are not Postal Service mail. Eddington presented no evidence that his email application operates with the same regularity as the Postal Service. Without evidence of the consistent functionality of the email application, there is no factual basis from which to derive a presumption of receipt. Substantive case documents are in the Dropbox. The next case, Richards versus the Office of Finance and Treasury regarding a University of the District of Columbia paycheck. This is a pro se case brought putatively under DC FOIA with an unusual procedural history. The plaintiff attempted to request records from a private bank. She issued her own subpoenas and moved the Superior Court to enforce those subpoenas, and then appealed from the Superior Court's interlocutory order denying the motion to enforce subpoenas. On October 18, 2021, plaintiff Leslie Richards sued the Office of Finance and Treasury and the University of the District of Columbia, alleging that UDC had issued Richards a check, but that it was fraudulently cashed, that UDC refused to release information concerning the check, and that under FOIA, they still refused to comply. It appears from the exhibits that Richards did place a DC FOIA request with UDC, and the UDC's Freedom of Information officer responded through counsel, that UDC does not retain deposit information for disbursements made by check, which are maintained by OFT. Richards attempted to subpoena records from UDC and non-party Wells Fargo Bank about where the check was deposited and by whom. In a June 7, 2022 order, the Superior Court treated her April 8, 2022 subpoena as request for production and denied Richards' motion to enforce compliance with subpoenas. The court reasoned that 1, Richards had not certified a good faith effort over a reasonable period to resolve the dispute before filing the motion. 2, UDC had asserted that it had provided plaintiff with a copy of the check, but had no information as to where the check was deposited or by whom, and the court had no reason to doubt UDC's counsel's candor. And 3, Wells Fargo Bank had responded that it did not find any responsive documents, and Richards offers no evidence that such information does exist, nor that Wells Fargo Bank may have not fully complied. On June 8, 2022, Richards filed a notice of appeal from the Superior Court's interlocutory order of June 7, 2022. On July 7, 2022, the Court of Appeals dismissed the appeal as taken from a non-final and non-appealable order of the Superior Court. The complaint, answer, and Superior Court order are in the Dropbox. The next matter, Barnes versus the Federal Bureau of Investigation regarding the plea agreement waiver of FOIA rights. On February 4, 2016, On February 4, 2016, Barnes sued, seeking to enjoin the FBI to disclose certain records under the Federal FOIA and Privacy Act statutes. Barnes was convicted and sentenced after a plea agreement with the government in which the government dropped certain charges against Barnes. He waived his entitlement to obtain records through FOIA request. When Barnes requested all FBI records containing his name, as well as FBI records containing allegations of terrorism by him or by a particular mosque, the FBI declined to provide the requested documents. After Barnes sued, the United States District Court found in favor of the FBI, in relevant part, enforcing Barnes' waiver of his FOIA rights because the FBI had identified a legitimate criminal justice interest, the protection of confidential informants, served by the enforcement of the FOIA waiver. The Court of Appeals agreed with the FBI and upheld the District Court's order. The Court of Appeals applied the standard in Price versus the United States Department of Justice Attorney Office that a waiver of FOIA rights as part of a plea deal must serve a legitimate criminal justice interest to be enforceable. Here, the government had good reason to insist on a FOIA waiver to make it harder for Barnes to learn more sensitive information about the informant. Barnes argued that there was not a good reason for the waiver term because Federal Exemption 7 already permits the withholding of certain law enforcement records that could reasonably be expected to disclose the identity of a confidential source, or was furnished by a source, or could reasonably be expected to endanger the life or physical safety of any individual. But the Court of Appeals reasoned that the government had a good reason for the waiver beyond what the FBI might be expected to apply simply by invoking the FOIA exemptions. The FBI's FOIA processors are hardly infallible in applying the exemptions, and Barnes himself has unique knowledge about the informant, such that while giving him some nugget of information might not seem to put its informant at greater risk, Barnes nonetheless could exploit the information for that purpose. Substantive case documents are included in the Dropbox. Our next case, the Phillips lawsuit alleging a FOIA watch list. As Director Allen has reported, criminal defense lawyer Amy Phillips alleged in a federal Section 1983 action that the Metropolitan Police Department maintains a watch list targeting certain DC FOIA requesters. The District Court held the initial scheduling conference on June 17, 2022. The court has announced a discovery schedule and set a post-discovery status hearing on March 16, 2023. Uploads of the updated docket sheet and the court scheduling order are in the Dropbox. The second item is legislation. Retention requirements for electronic records. As Director Allen has reported before, the DC Council passed a provision to clarify that communications created or received electronically in the course of official business are subject to the District of Columbia Public Records Management Act of 1985. as a non-germane amendment to a temporary bill. The enacted version has completed congressional layover and took effect on June 30th, 2022 as DC Law 24-135. It will expire on February 10th, 2023. The companion emergency measure DC Act 24-355 expired on June 26, 2022. And as of July 5th, 2022, no corresponding permanent bill has been introduced. Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 24-0706. On July 6, 2022, the Committee on Human Services met to mark up this measure. The committee reported out the bill favorably by unanimous voice vote. The report is uploaded to the Dropbox. Agency Budget Request Freedom of Information Clarification Amendment Act of 2022. The DC Council has passed the fiscal year 2023 Budget Support Act of 2022, Bill 24-0714, and its emergency counterpart, Bill 24-0845. These measures include a subtitle that amends DC FOIA to clarify that Exemption 4 does not cover certain budget records created on or after December 7, 2004. The Emergency Act was transmitted to the mayor on July 5th, 2022. Her response is due July 19th, 2022. The permanent version was transmitted to the mayor on July 11th, and her response is due July 25th, 2022. The enrolled versions are in the Dropbox. The DC FOIA provisions appear on page 7. The next item, legislation. First, we discussed model public meetings during Emergency Act. As Director Allen has reported, a committee of the Uniform Law Commission, ULC, is drafting a Public Meetings During Emergencies Act. On June 7, 2022, the drafting committee, which includes Deputy Attorney General and former Interim Director of Office of Open Government, Brian Flowers, announced that it had decided to propose the bill as model rather than uniform legislation to accommodate the wide variations among pre-existing sunshine and open meeting statutes nationwide. The ULC's Committee of the Whole reported out the final measure for final reading on July 11, 2022, and final passage was expected on the afternoon of July 13, 2022, yesterday. Attorney Weil has been observing the conference. Deputy Attorney General Flowers, along with John J. McAvoy, were elected on July 8, 2022 to be life members of the ULC, and by statute, they will also serve as life members of the District of Columbia, ULC. The draft measure and issues memorandum are in the Dropbox. The OOG staff will continue to monitor litigation and legislative activity. The last item in the report is administrative matters. First, we have the paralegal specialist position. The OOG has extended an offer of employment for the paralegal specialist position. We look forward to the position being filled by the end of July. Second, we have the Bega website redesign meeting. On June 8, 2022, Bega met with representatives from the Office of the Chief Technology Officer about redesigning bega.dc.gov. Present at the meeting were Director Allen, Director Cooks, General Counsel Raj, Senior Attorney Tran, and IT Specialist Bridges. The discussion focused on mapping the current website and conducting a usability survey. The aim is to make the website more user-friendly and eventually will add components from open-dc.gov to the website to make more room on the website for the central meeting calendar. And the last item, the mid-year performance reviews. On June 8th through 9th, 2022, Director Allen and Chief Counsel Barton conducted mid-year performance reviews for the OOG staff for FY 2022. Performance period ends on September 30th, 2022, and annual reviews will be conducted thereafter. This concludes the Office of Open Government's July 14, 2022 report. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I thank you for your patience in listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeBerry. Are there any questions for Ms. DeBerry?
Just one, thank you very much. You guys have a lot going on, I can tell. Just one note of caution on the website redesign. The three biggest lies, I think, from IT vendors are: one, we'll get it done on time; two, all your information will migrate over with no issues at all; and three, we'll be here to support you in the future. And they are the three biggest lies, because it almost never works out that way. So just a word of caution that before you launch, make sure that the database is searchable for our legal ethics opinions and open government opinions without any issues, and that you don't tie yourself to a certain date by which you must launch, or else. There needs to be flexibility built into that. And this is all coming from someone with a vast amount of experience in a couple of positions now.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comment from Ms. DeBerry? Okay. The next on our agenda, also via WebEx, we'll hear from the Director of the Office of Government Ethics, Ashley Cooks. Director Cooks, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. First is an update on the status of OGE operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur as a result of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. First, open investigations by status. We have 45 matters that are open, 1 matter that is pending negotiations, for a grand total of 46 open matters. We have a grand total of 9 undocketed matters. Next is pending state investigations by status. We have 25 matters that are closed pending collection, 4 matters that are stayed pending DC Superior Court case, 6 matters stayed pending OAG False Claims Act case, 5 matters stayed for an OIG investigation, and 1 matter that is stayed for a U.S. District Court case, for a grand total of 41 matters that are pending or stayed. For regulatory matters by status, we have 25 matters that are closed pending collection and 15 matters that are open, for a grand total of 40 regulatory matters. We currently have 46 open investigations and 16 matters that are stayed. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 11 new matters. The investigative team resolved 16 matters since the last board meeting. OGE started working on the quarterly complaint report for Q3 of fiscal year 2022, ending June 2022. It is expected to be posted to the Bega.dc.gov website next week. A copy will be available for your review by the next meeting. Next is training and outreach. First is an update on the professional development trainings attended by staff. Auditor Emmanuel Tajuba attended 4 trainings: building shared understanding across cultural divides, the power of communication, polishing your feedback and skills, and redefining yourself after organizational change. Investigator Ileana Corrales completed 2 trainings: conducting secure online investigations in 2022, and investigative communication with witnesses and subjects. Attorney Advisor Millicent Jones completed how to make your legal writing precise, powerful, and persuasive. Supervisory Attorney Asia Stewart Mitchell took sharpen your focus to stay on track. General Counsel Rashi Raj completed 2 trainings. The first is harassment prevention training for DC government employees and managers, and think like a lawyer, talk like a geek, getting fluent in technology. Senior Attorney Lynn Tran completed 2 trainings: diversity and inclusion in law practice, and the Ethics Game Show 2022, a review of ethical issues. I attended the DC Bar's 2022 conference on June 23rd. The conference featured a fireside chat with Niquelle and panel discussions on the first 50 years of the bar and the future of the bar. Next are trainings conducted by staff. Since the June 2nd meeting, OGE conducted 5 trainings, including the June and July Hatch Act trainings and the June and July monthly ethics trainings. Last week, Attorney Advisor Maurice Eckel and Program Specialist Stan Kosick completed a webinar for 20 attendees regarding lobbyist registration. Attorney Advisor Eccles presented information on Part E of the Ethics Act and answered questions about lobbying and when filing is required. Program Specialist Kosick demonstrated the LRE file system and how filers should use it to keep in good standing and up to date. Additional webinars are planned for the fall and winter. At the end of June, Attorney Advisor Jones led our monthly ethics counselor brown bag session on post-employment. She gave the ethics counselors a deeper dive into the different prohibitions under District Personnel Manual Section 1811. Our next brown bag session on the misuse of government resources will be presented by Supervisory Attorney Stuart Mitchell on Monday, July 25th, 2022. During the month of June, 161 employees completed our online ethics training via PeopleSoft. Since the April 25th launch of our learning management system, 386 employees have registered for the system. The next update is on outreach. As Attorney Advisor Barry has stated, and thank you, Board Member Sobin, for your suggestion. OGE and OOG continue to meet with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer's website development staff to discuss Bega's website refresh. The website refresh will improve organization, searchability, and user friendliness, as well as the overall appearance of the website. We will continue a series of meetings over the next few weeks to complete the project before the end of this fiscal year. Next is advisory opinions and advice. For informal advice, OGE's legal staff provided advice for approximately 52 ethics inquiries, which is 19 more than the 33 reported at the June meeting. This number does not include responses we have provided to questions regarding the lobbyist and FDS e-filing systems. OGE is in the final stages of editing an advisory opinion focusing on the fundraising prohibition of the local Hatch Act. Next is legislation updates. First is the Pro Bono Legal Representation Expansion Amendment Act of 2021. On June 28, 2022, the mayor signed the Pro Bono Legal Representation Expansion Amendment Act of 2021, Bill 24-0298. The bill has been enacted with Act number A24-0041 and was published in the DC Register. The act will allow district government employees to provide pro bono legal representation under certain restrictions. The act will become effective following a 30-day period of congressional review per the DC Home Rule Act. A copy of the legislation was placed in the Dropbox for your review. Next is the Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022. On July 6, 2022, the Committee on Human Services held a meeting on the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 24-706. The act will allow Bega, at its discretion, to transfer delinquent debt associated with settlements and judgments for Ethics and Open Meetings Act violations to the CCU Central Collection Unit for collection, and for the funds collected on Bega's behalf to be deposited into the Ethics Fund and OMA Fund instead of the General Fund. The committee voted in favor of the bill and recommended approval by the council. A hearing date before the council has not yet been scheduled. A copy of the committee report has been placed in the Dropbox for your review. Last legislative update is the Comprehensive Code of Conduct. OGE's legal team continues to review and update the Comprehensive Code of Conduct, CCC, with the goal of submitting an updated version of the legislation to the board and then the council. As defined in the Ethics Act, the Code of Conduct consists of 7 different statutes and regulations with varying applicability. The CCC is legislation that consolidates the district's ethics laws and standardizes the ethics practices between the legislative and executive branches. The goal is to have the CCC introduced before the council in the fall of this year. Next are OGE administrative matters, OGE staffing. I'm pleased to introduce you to Bega's new Human Resources Specialist, London Green. Ms. Green comes to Bega with 11 years of human resources and office support experience. She obtained her master's degree in human resources management in May 2019. London is a native Washingtonian who enjoys spending time with her family and friends and shopping. We are actively working to fill our other vacancies. The Chief of Staff position recently closed, and we have selected 6 candidates to interview on next week. Next is the Financial Disclosure Statement, FDS. During the 2002 filing season, 3,850 filers were noticed in April. As of June 30th, 3,551 filers have completed their filing. OGE staff received approximately 303 support tickets in addition to several phone calls for assistance. The FDS team has prepared and submitted 3 filers lists to the DC Register. That includes filers on time, latent non-filers, and waivers. Staff is prepping for enforcement activities and collecting financial disclosure review reports from agencies. Finally, Auditor Chajuba completed the council member public financial disclosure statement audit, and no major findings were noted. And my last update is on lobbying registration and reporting, LRR. The 2022 second quarter activity reports are due tomorrow, July 15, 2022. On June 30th, the LRR team sent a reminder notice to 275 lobbyists. The notice advised the recipients of the upcoming deadline. To date, 93 activity reports have been filed using the LRR e-file system. Thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics July 14, 2022 report. I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Director Cooks. Are there any questions or comments for Director Cooks? Okay, hearing none. Thank you and welcome to London Green, our new HR specialist. It's good to have you on board. Okay. The next item on our agenda is public comments. The public was invited to submit written comments by 11 a.m. today. No written comments had been received by 11:01, but I understand that the board has received a request from Mondi Kumbula Frazier from the Consortium of Universities of the Washington Metropolitan Area, who has asked to make a public comment. And the chair recognizes Ms. Kumbula Frazier if she's present. I don't see her listed among the attendees. Oh, no, I do.
Yes, she's in the attendee box.
She's here, I see. Okay, so Ms. Kumbula Frazier, would you unmute yourself and provide your comment?
To hear.
Yes, we can hear. Please go right ahead.
We could hear for a second, but now it seems we can't.
Yeah, it looks like you're on mute again.
Yvonne, can you go ahead and, oh, it looks like she's unmuted now.
Okay. Ms. Kumbula Frazier?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
You can.
Yes, please proceed.
Just
If you're speaking, you're breaking up because I'm not able to hear you now.
of the Washington.
Right, you're breaking up. We're getting like every third word. It sounds like you've got a bad connection. So why don't we do this? Okay, go ahead. Okay, if you're speaking, you've got a really bad connection because we can't, we're getting like every fourth or fifth word. And I don't want
think,
to.
it seems like she can't hear us.
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear us clearly.
Yes.
Okay, we can't hear you clearly. We're getting like every fourth or fifth word.
Is there a phone number I can dial into then, or?
Okay, now we can hear you. When you just asked for a phone number, it's fine. So I don't know what you did just now, but you need to do that so that we can hear the rest of your comment.
Okay, so should I start again?
Would you please, because
Yes,
we didn't hear that.
All right. Good afternoon, Chair Hutcheson and members of the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability, Director Cook and General Counsel Raj. My name is Mondi Kumbula Fraser, and I am the Vice President of Government Relations and General Counsel for the Consortium of Universities of the Washington Metropolitan Area. The consortium is a nonprofit organization representing 21 higher education institutions and over 400,000 students in the District, Maryland, and Virginia. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm here on behalf of the consortium in order to request a waiver for a $250 fine that the consortium received for filing our first quarter lobbying report after the deadline. I joined the consortium in February 2021, and shortly thereafter I contacted Bega to have an account set up manually in my name and spoke with Mr. Stanley Kosick. At the time, I was informed that there were at least 3 other names listed in the consortium account, all former employees. However, when Mr. Kosick set up my account, due to a technical glitch, he was unable to delete the names of the former employees from the system. However, he assured me that I would be listed as the primary account holder and receive all of Bega's emails, which I did without interruption for a full year until April 2022. Each quarter, it has been the custom and practice of Bega to send an important reminder notice from the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to all registered lobbyists in the district. The quarterly notice is important because 1, it notifies lobbyists when the Bega's e-filing system, will be open to file quarterly lobbying reports, and 2, reminds lobbyists to file their quarterly lobbying reports by a particular deadline. When the consortium received the important and time-sensitive quarterly reminder notices from Bega and subsequently filed the organization's lobbying reports in a timely manner, this occurred in April 2021, July 2021, October 2021, January 2022, and July 2022. However, the consortium did not receive the quarterly reminder notice that was issued to all lobbyists registered in the district for the first quarter, which was due on April 18th, 2022. I later contacted Mr. Kosick and asked for assistance in identifying why the consortium never received the customary important reminder notice for Q1 2022. After searching his email, Mr. Kosick informed me that there had been an error. Since he was unable to delete the consortium's former employees from the account, he inadvertently clicked the name of a former consortium employee, Sally Cram, and sent it to her disabled email address instead. As a result, while Bega's intent was for the consortium to receive the important reminder notice along with the other registered lobbyists in the district, the consortium did not receive it. In addition, unlike some organizations which have multiple lobbyists on staff, which means that they have multiple opportunities to receive the reminder notice, even if one person happens to be left off the distribution list, the consortium only has 1 registered lobbyist on staff. So if the notice did not come to me, the consortium did not receive it at all. Mr. Kosick was very gracious, apologized for the error, and advised me on how to seek a waiver of the fine since the consortium did not receive the important reminder notice that went to the other lobbyists. He also advised me to detail exactly what happened and that he would document our conversation in the Bega database and support my request to have the fine waived. He also fixed the glitch in the Bega system while I was waiting on the phone, which had caused it to go to the wrong email address. And he assured me that this would never happen again because now I am the only person listed as a contact for the consortium. He also informed me that Bega had an internal meeting and recommended that the fine against the consortium be waived. So I believed that this matter was going to be resolved and that the fine would be withdrawn. So I was very surprised a few days ago to receive a communication notifying me that the director wanted to contest the consortium's request to waive the fine. While the director has contended that the reminder notices are complimentary optional notices and lobbyists should not expect to receive them, I would respectfully yet firmly disagree. While the quarterly notice may not be required by statute, it has been the custom and practice for Bega to send the quarterly notice to all registered lobbyists in the district. And the expectation and the intent is for all registered lobbyists to receive it, not just certain lobbyists. In addition, I believe that the notice is important for all registered lobbyists to receive because, number one, Bega itself deems the notice as important and has entitled it in all caps and bold letters as Important Reminder Notice from the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. Number two, the first paragraph of the notice is entirely in bold and says, quote, "Please read this entire notice carefully as it contains important time-sensitive information and instructions," end quote. Number three, the notice reminds recipients of the deadline to file lobbying reports and says, quote, "Non-compliance will result in imposed penalties," end quote. Number four, the notice answers frequently asked questions posed by lobbyists, including the deadline and the date that the e-filing system will open for that particular quarter. For example, a recent reminder notice stated, quote, "The e-file system will open on June 30th, 2022 at 8 a.m. You will be able to enter your 2022 quarter 2 activity reports at this time. The deadline to complete your reports is Friday, July 15th, 2022, end quote. And number five.
Okay, Ms. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Yes.
Ms. Kambula, if you could just take another minute to wrap up. I
Sure,
appreciate
I
it.
have just one more minute in me, I promise.
Okay.
Clearly, Bega is invested in ensuring that registered lobbyists comply with the lobbying report deadlines, which is why it has been the agency's custom and practice to send the reminder notice to all registered lobbyists so they all have an equal opportunity for their organizations to be in compliance. If due to a clerical error or system glitch, Bega inadvertently leaves one lobbyist off the distribution list, then that lobbyist is at a disadvantage while the others who received it are at an advantage. I would note that but for the one time that the consortium was inadvertently left off the distribution list, the consortium has a track record of filing lobbying reports in a timely manner in April 2021, July 2021, October 2021, January 2022, and July 2022. And in conclusion, considering that one, there was an inadvertent error leaving the consortium off of the distribution list for the reminder. Two, the Bega staff member who inadvertently made the error supports the waiver request. And three, the consortium was told that this matter received a recommendation for a waiver. We respectfully request that the board waive the fine for the consortium. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
And we thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment section. And we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the executive session or a closed session. This agenda item is a closed session to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, or removal or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, great. It's been moved and second that the board enter into executive session. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think that's everyone. Board members, please log out of this session and log into the WebEx for the executive session. Once the executive session is completed, we will return to this WebEx to report out any matters decided and finish any other business and adjourn the meeting. So let's go into executive session now. Thank you. Okay, looks like we're all here. Okay, the time is now 1:36 p.m. and we are back on the record. The board approved a negotiated disposition in case number 19-0011-F in Re J. Sumner during its closed meeting. That's the only matter to report out. And with that, we conclude the meeting of the DC Board of Government Ethics and Government Accountability for July. Our next meeting will be held also via WebEx on August 4th, 2022 at 12 noon. Thank you very much for attending, and everyone have a safe summer.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.